All right, so this is the God, what is it called? The headlight level sensor. So basically, this is the lower link uh, on the rear suspension driver side, right? So as the suspension goes up and down, uh, or basically as if the suspension is, if the trunk is loaded up and the rear end is basically squatted down a little bit, this bar basically kind of comes up a little bit. So if it comes up, this it pushes this there's basically a little relay here or a sensor here that tells you where the position of the bar is, right? Like so. So basically what happens is, for example, when your car's empty or your trunk's empty, the car will sit up a little bit higher because there's no weight there. So this bar here will actually sit down a little bit lower. So it pushes the sensor down like that. So that way, the headlight aim will be level to where it's supposed to be. Then when you put stuff in the trunk and it makes the trunk sag. So when it sags, that means this bar will actually raise. So this part right here will raise as well. So it knows that the car knows, oh, there's something in the something heavy in the trunk. It's making the back end sag. So if the back end sags, the front end will actually point up. So it'd be like that. Then also if the headlight stays the same, the headlight will actually point higher. So this right here will compensate for that, and it keeps the headlight at the same level, so it stays the same, right? So because I got some some Olins on here, and the Olins lower the car a little bit, or at least where the setting where I have it anyways, I have it at about 14 inches from my center of the wheel to the fender, up to the fender. Stock, if I can remember right, it was 14 3/4 inches, 14 and a half, 14 3/4. I think it's about 14 3/4. So basically I went down 3/4 of an inch in ride height. So because of that, this bar here, if it was at stock height, it would actually angle down a little bit more, but now it's slightly lower. So this bar angles up like this. So basically it pushes this thing up a little bit. So when it pushes up like this, that means the aim of the headlight is not it's not right. It's basically it's gonna aim too low. So basically when you lower the car a little bit, because the car doesn't know that it's lowered. So according to this sensor thing here, it thinks that that trunk it's been loaded up, so it's been heavy. So basically it thinks that, okay, the back end is squatted down. So it thinks that, oh, the headlight is pointing up now. So it's gonna compensate, and then it's gonna point the headlight down. So basically, right now, because my car it's lowered, it's equally on all four corners. So basically the car stays level, but my headlight's pointing lower now. So to compensate for that change, I basically, instead of because they sell this linkage here, they sell an adjustable linkage so that way you can make it shorter. But instead of doing that, spending $50, I just took the mount here, see what the mount is, and I filed it down. So that way it's downwards, and you can see where the old mark is, where the nut covered, and I filed it down to basically the edge of that. And I think it dropped it. It's not quite a 1/4 inch. It's probably about, I would say it's probably about 3/16. So originally it was like higher up like that, right? And now I filed down, so now I'm gonna have it sit down like this. So that way it thinks that the car is it's closer to being what it was at stock height. So it will actually raise my headlight up a little bit, so that way it's a little bit higher. Because right now, as it is at stock height, at this stock position, I think the headlight's pointed slightly low. It's not too bad, but it's enough that I notice it. So I want to get some of that back to how it was before. Especially driving dark mountain roads at night, I could definitely notice it. Out in the city, it doesn't really make too much of a difference, but in the mountain roads, I could definitely tell that it's lower. So that's what I did. I filed it down. So now that you filed it down, this part right here is basically where you file is bare metal now, right? So you have to get something to you can leave it as is, and it'll rust faster. But if you get some paint, and I have some actually a little paint marker, just actual paint, oil-based paint. I'm just gonna paint around the spot where I filed it, and to protect that so it doesn't rust further. Other thing that when you're filing to prevent, I'm using a rat tail file, rat tail file right here. Get it in here, right? Sometimes the file slips out, and it might hit your linkage here, or it might hit the sway bar up here. So what you do is you get some tape and tape right here and tape right here, so that way when the file slips out, it doesn't scratch up your thing. I didn't tape my piece. I just left it open so I could see some scratches here. I'm not too concerned about it. Other thing is when you take this apart, it's pretty tight, and this little bracket here, this little tab here, it's pretty flimsy. I mean, I could actually bend this with my bare hands right here. So when you're trying to loosen it, it's gonna bend on you. So on here, on the other side, there's actually also a 10 millimeter. So this is a 10 millimeter nut over here, but on the other side, there's also 10 millimeter. So you use an open end wrench on the back side here to hold that. Then your other wrench will bust this open. Okay. So obviously, I just finished doing this. I haven't test driven it yet. I don't think I need to do any more because I just need a slight difference and change. And how I figured how much to go down here is remember I lowered the car is lowered about 3/4 of an inch, and that's all the way over here at the wheel. Outside the wheel, that's where the measurement is. So you look at that distance from outside of the wheel here, all the way to where this point here is, where it pivots. And you look at that distance. This point right here is about 1/3 of the way out from this pivot point right here. So since that distance that I changed was 3/4 of an inch, so this 1/3 of the way point should be basically 1/4 inch. Because I'm taking only 1/3 of that travel, right? Of the distance, because it's only 1/3 of the way out. So this distance here actually only I only need to move it 1/4 of an inch. So I moved it a little bit less than that. I think I moved it about 3/16 of an inch, and I'm gonna try it, see how it goes like that. If it's good enough, then I'm gonna leave it like so. If I need a little bit more, I'm gonna file down a little bit more. But anyways, I stopped at the point where the you see the impression of the bolt, or the nut on there. So I went all the way down to the edge of that, right at the edge of that impression of the nut. So that's why I stopped. So I believe it's about 3/16 of an inch. All right. So that's all you need to do. So now I'm just gonna get some painted actually I might even do this. I might be kind of lazy and just leave it as is. Probably won't even care because this is it's so insignificant here. But if you do care, you get some paint and paint this spot right here. And also before you do this, you might want to tape up your bar here and tape up your sway bar here as well. So that's it. All right. Thanks for watching.